I never thought family betrayal could cut so deep until my own sister Diana accused me of something unthinkable. We grew up sharing secrets, protecting each other, building dreams together. Then suddenly, with one devastating lie, she shattered our bond and nearly destroyed my life. The accusation came without warning, leaving me isolated, doubted, and fighting to prove my innocence in a world that had already judged me. What hurts most wasn't just the lie, but how quickly trust can evaporate. Before I share how my own sister destroyed my life with a single lie, let me know where you're watching from. Hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever been betrayed by someone you thought you could trust. I was born and raised in Boston, a 28-year-old software engineer with what I thought was a pretty normal family. Our household consisted of my parents, James and Margaret, myself and my younger sister Diana, who is 4 years younger than me at 24. Growing up, Diana and I were actually quite close. We built blanket forts in the living room, defended each other from neighborhood bullies, and shared inside jokes that made our parents shake their heads in confusion. I remember teaching Diana how to ride a bike when she was 6, spending hours running alongside her until she finally found her balance. The pride in her eyes that day made all the scraped knees worth it. But as Diana entered her teenage years, I started noticing changes in her personality. What began as typical teenage attitude evolved into something more concerning. She became increasingly attention-seeking, creating drama where there was none. If our parents complimented my grades, Diana would suddenly develop a mysterious illness. If family gatherings focused on someone else, she would find ways to redirect the spotlight. I chalked it up to normal growing pains, figuring she would mature out of it. After all, I went through my own rebellious phase. But while I eventually settled down, Diana seemed to double down on her manipulative behaviors as she entered adulthood. By the time I had graduated college, landed a great job at a tech company, and was saving for my first house, the contrast between our lives became stark. Diana was struggling through college, changing majors 3 times, and constantly calling our parents for extra money. I never judged her for this. Everyone finds their path at different times, but I could sense her growing resentment toward me. Last Thanksgiving marked a turning point. Our family gathered at our parents' house for the traditional holiday festivities. Diana brought her new boyfriend Adam, a quiet guy, with an uneasy smile, who seemed to agree with everything Diana said. Throughout dinner, I noticed Diana giving me strange looks and whispering to Adam whenever I spoke. When I offered to help her with a computer science elective she was struggling with, she snapped at me, saying I was just trying to show off. Mom noticed the tension and pulled me aside later. She said she was worried about Diana, that she seemed more volatile lately. Dad dismissed it as sibling rivalry, reminiscing about how he and his brother went through similar phases. They had no idea how far beyond rivalry things would go. The last night of the Thanksgiving weekend, I overheard Diana talking to Adam in the backyard. I did not mean to eavesdrop, but her raised voice caught my attention through the open kitchen window. "It is so unfair," she complained. "He gets everything handed to him. The perfect job, the perfect life. Mom and Dad think he is so wonderful and I am just the screw-up." Adam murmured something I could not hear, but Diana's response chilled me. Well, maybe it is time something did not go his way for once. I should have confronted her then. Maybe if we had talked it out, cleared the air, what happened next could have been avoided. But I told myself she was just venting, that siblings say things in anger they do not mean. I was wrong. So terribly wrong. 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, I received a call from my father that changed everything. His voice sounded hollow, broken in a way I had never heard before. "Your mother and I need you to come over right now," he said. "Do not ask questions, just come." When I arrived, both my parents were sitting in the living room looking shell-shocked. Mom had clearly been crying for hours, her eyes swollen and red. Dad could barely look at me. "Jason," my father finally said, using my full name instead of the nickname he had called me since childhood. "Diana came to us with something terrible. She says that during Thanksgiving weekend you sexually assaulted her." The words hit me like a physical blow. I literally staggered backward, my mind unable to process what I was hearing. I must have misheard. This had to be some kind of sick joke. Did you hear me? My father pressed when I did not respond. Diana says you assaulted her. It is a lie. I finally managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. It is a complete lie. How could she say something like that? How could you even ask me this? My mother began sobbing again, and my father put his arm around her. We have to ask Jason. Our daughter came to us traumatized, saying her own brother violated her. What are we supposed to do? The conversation that followed was the most horrific of my life. Diana had spun an elaborate tale, claiming I had cornered her in the guest room after everyone had gone to bed on Saturday night. She provided disturbing details, claiming she had been too afraid to scream, too shocked to fight back against her own brother. She said she had been too ashamed and terrified to tell anyone immediately but could not live with the secret anymore. Not only had Diana told our parents, but she had also gone to the police that morning to file a report. They would be contacting me soon. And if that was not enough, she had posted a vague but pointed message on her social media accounts about surviving assault by a family member. Within hours, my phone began buzzing with messages from mutual friends, extended family, and even coworkers who had connected with me online. No one directly accused me, but there were questions, concerns, people checking if I was okay in a tone that suggested they already believed I was guilty. 3 days later, 2 police officers showed up at my apartment. They questioned me for hours, going over my whereabouts during Thanksgiving weekend, my relationship with my sister, whether we had ever had conflicts. They took my phone and laptop, saying they needed to examine them for evidence. My girlfriend of 2 years, Jessica, initially said she believed me, but the pressure from her friends became too much. A week after Diana's accusation, she told me she needed space. That space became permanent when she texted me that she could not be with someone who had this cloud hanging over them, whether it was true or not. At work, my boss called me into his office and gently suggested I take a leave of absence until the matter was resolved. Not a suspension, he clarified, but we both knew what it really was. My colleagues avoided eye contact in the hallways. The HR director gave me resources for legal counsel, her expression carefully neutral. The worst part was the isolation. Friends I had known for years suddenly became too busy to return my calls. Family gatherings were out of the question, with relatives taking sides, most assuming there must be some truth to such a serious accusation. My cousin Rachel, who had been like a sister to me, blocked me on all platforms after writing a long message about believing victims. I spent weeks barely leaving my apartment, alternating between rage, despair, and numbness. I lost weight, could not sleep, and found myself researching how false accusations affect people's lives. The statistics were grim. Even when proven innocent, the stigma often remains. I contemplated moving to another state, changing my name, anything to escape the nightmare Diana had created. The only person who stood firmly by my side was my best friend Taylor. She had known Diana and me since we were kids, and she immediately questioned the accusation. It was Taylor who first noticed inconsistencies in Diana's story, who reminded me that truth still matters, and who convinced me to fight back rather than run away. I do not care what people think, Taylor told me one night, as I sat on my couch staring blankly at the wall. We are going to clear your name. Diana has always been manipulative, but this is beyond anything I could have imagined. Something does not add up, and we are going to figure it out. It was Taylor who helped me notice the first cracks in Diana's carefully constructed lie. The timeline she had given the police did not match her social media activity that weekend. According to Diana, she had been too traumatized to leave her room the next day, yet she had posted photos of herself at a Sunday brunch with Adam smiling and apparently carefree. It was a small discrepancy, but it gave me the first glimmer of hope that the truth might eventually come out. Taylor became my unofficial investigator, driven by a sense of justice and loyalty I will forever be grateful for. She began systematically gathering evidence, creating a detailed timeline of the Thanksgiving weekend that directly contradicted Diana's version of events. First, we recovered Diana's social media posts from that weekend, screenshots showing her checking in at various places, during times she claimed to be hiding in her room traumatized. There were photos of her at Sunday brunch with Adam, a time-stamped selfie from a Black Friday shopping trip, and multiple cheerful updates that showed no signs of distress. Then, in a stroke of luck that felt like divine intervention, we discovered that my parents' neighbor had installed a security camera that captured a view of our driveway. Taylor convinced him to check the footage from that weekend. The video clearly showed Diana leaving the house Sunday morning, laughing with Adam as they got into his car, hardly the behavior of someone who had been assaulted the night before. We also located witnesses from Diana's campus who saw her at a party the following Tuesday dancing and drinking when she had told the police she was still too traumatized to attend classes. One of her roommates, upon learning of the accusations against me, came forward to say Diana had seemed completely normal after Thanksgiving, even bragging about manipulating our parents into giving her extra money for Christmas. With this mounting evidence, I hired Alan Griffith, an attorney who specialized in false accusation cases. He was expensive, but worth every penny. Alan helped me organize the evidence in a compelling way and advised me on how to present it to the police. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Adam, Diana's boyfriend, had begun to have doubts. Taylor ran into him at a coffee shop and noticed his discomfort when she mentioned my name. She took a chance and directly asked him what he knew. Surprisingly, Adam agreed to meet with us privately. He was nervous, constantly checking his phone, afraid Diana might discover his betrayal. But his conscience had been eating at him. Diana made the whole thing up, he finally admitted. She was jealous of the attention Jason gets from their parents. She was failing 3 classes and needed a distraction, something that would make everyone forget about her academic problems and focus on her as a victim. Adam showed us text messages where Diana had outlined her plan, calculated how to make her story believable, and even practiced what she would say to the police. In one particularly damning message, she wrote, "Watch how quickly everyone turns on him. No one will care about my grades after this." Adam agreed to provide these messages to my attorney and the police. When asked why he was coming forward now, he simply said, "I thought it was just going to be a small lie that would blow over. I did not think it would go this far. I cannot be part of destroying someone's life." With Adam's evidence and our timeline contradictions, the police investigation took a dramatic turn. They interviewed Diana again, this time confronting her with the inconsistencies. According to the detective who later contacted me, Diana became defensive, then angry, then finally broke down when shown Adam's text messages. She did not explicitly admit to lying, but changed her story multiple times until it became clear to everyone involved that her accusation was false. 2 months after the nightmare began, I received official notification that the police were dropping the investigation due to lack of evidence and credibility issues with the accuser. My attorney issued a carefully worded statement to those who needed to know, explaining that I had been fully cleared of any wrongdoing. The hardest part was watching my parents come to terms with what their daughter had done. They invited me to their house where they showed me letters Diana had written to them, after making her accusation letters full of fabricated trauma and manipulative language designed to further drive a wedge between us. My mother could barely speak through her tears as she apologized for having doubted me even for a moment. We arranged a family meeting with Diana present. My parents, my attorney Taylor, and I sat down with all the evidence laid out. Diana arrived, seeming confident, but that confidence quickly shattered as she realized what was happening. She tried denial first, then attacked Adam for betraying her, then claimed we were all conspiring against her. What struck me most was not her anger, but her complete lack of remorse when finally confronted with irrefutable proof of her lies. Instead of apologizing, she looked me directly in the eyes and said, "You always get everything." Just once I wanted people to care about me more. What came next still shocks me to this day. After being exposed as a liar who had nearly destroyed my life, Diana somehow managed to twist reality once again. She demanded that I apologize to her for not supporting her story. "You are my brother," she said, her voice eerily calm. "You should have stood by me regardless of what happened. Family supports family no matter what." The room fell silent. My parents exchanged glances of disbelief. Taylor actually laughed out loud, a short, shocked sound she quickly stifled. My attorney shifted uncomfortably in his seat. I felt a strange calm settle over me as I finally saw my sister for who she truly was. Someone willing to destroy another person to get what she wanted, then expect forgiveness without remorse. Someone who viewed family bonds as tools to be manipulated rather than connections to be treasured. My mother was the first to speak. "Diana," she said softly, "you accused your brother of one of the worst things a person can be accused of. You lied to us, to the police, to everyone. And now you want him to apologize to you." Diana's eyes filled with tears, but I had seen this performance too many times before. These were not tears of remorse, but of thwarted manipulation. "You are all against me," Diana cried, reverting to her victim role. "I made one mistake, and now you are going to throw me away." "What kind of family does that?" "One mistake," my father said, his voice shaking with emotion. "You tried to send your brother to prison. You were willing to destroy his entire future. That is not a mistake, Diana. That is a deliberate choice you made day after day for months." As the reality of her situation dawned on her, Diana's tactics escalated. She threatened to tell people we had forced her to recant. She promised to make our family name synonymous with scandal. When none of that worked, she tried guilt, reminding our parents of her childhood achievements, her needs, her mental health struggles, that supposedly explained everything. But something had fundamentally changed. The spell was broken. My parents, who had always made excuses for Diana's behavior, finally recognized the pattern that had been building for years. This was not a one-time lapse in judgment, but the culmination of a lifetime of manipulation. After hours of circular arguments, my father made the hardest decision of his life. He told Diana that until she took full responsibility for her actions and got professional help, she could not be part of the family. He would continue paying her tuition directly to the university, but she would not be welcome in their home. Diana stormed out, slamming the door so hard a family photo fell from the wall and shattered. The symbolism was not lost on any of us. The months that followed were a slow, painful process of rebuilding. My attorney helped me draft a statement that was shared with those who needed to know, explaining in careful terms that the allegations had been proven false. My boss welcomed me back to work with a sincere apology and made it clear to the team that I had been completely exonerated. Some friendships were irreparably damaged. People who had jumped to condemn me either slunk away in embarrassment or made awkward attempts at reconciliation. I found I could forgive some, but not others. The ones who had asked questions before passing judgment, who had given me the benefit of the doubt, those relationships could be salvaged. The others, I let go. I started therapy, joining a support group for people who had faced false accusations. The psychological impact was profound and long-lasting. I developed trust issues, anxiety in social situations, and a hyper-awareness of how I interacted with others, especially women. Every conversation felt like potential evidence that might be twisted against me later. My therapist helped me work through these fears, teaching me that while my caution was understandable, I could not let Diana's actions define the rest of my life. Slowly, I began to date again, though I was transparent about my experience. Early on, watching carefully for how potential partners reacted to this difficult history. The healing extended to my family as well. My parents went through their own therapy, working through their guilt for not recognizing Diana's behavior sooner and for initially doubting me. Extended family members who had distanced themselves gradually returned, many offering heartfelt apologies. 1 year after the accusation, we held another Thanksgiving gathering. Diana was not present, but her absence was both painful and relieving. We were a family with a missing piece, yet somehow more authentic than we had been in years. Shortly after the holidays, we received news that Diana had transferred to a university across the country, only to be expelled 3 months later for fabricating harassment claims against a professor who gave her a failing grade. She had lost her new friend group when they discovered her history of lies. Last we heard, she was working at a restaurant and telling coworkers she had no family, that we had abandoned her for no reason. I have spent many nights wondering if we failed Diana somehow, If there were signs in childhood, we missed interventions that might have changed her path. But ultimately, I have come to accept that each person makes their own choices, and Diana chose deception over truth manipulation, over genuine connection time and again. I have not fully forgiven her. I am not sure I ever will. But I have set boundaries that protect my well-being, while leaving the door slightly ajar. If someday Diana truly recognizes the harm she caused and does the hard work of changing her behavior, perhaps there could be some form of reconciliation. But it would never again be blind trust, and that is a consequence she will have to accept. What I have learned through this ordeal is that family is not just about blood, it is about trust and mutual respect. Diana did not lose her family because of a mistake. She lost them because she weaponized family bonds for her own benefit and expected unconditional forgiveness without showing remorse. For anyone dealing with toxic family members, remember this: love does not require you to be someone else's victim. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for them is to establish firm boundaries that make manipulation impossible. Sometimes those boundaries might mean walking away. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members who betrayed your trust? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more stories about overcoming family trauma and building healthier relationships. Remember, sometimes the family we choose is more important than the family we are born into. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it helps someone feel less alone in their own struggles with toxic relationships.